Well, it's 7:05. I think we'll start. Good evening, and thank you for coming to the free Zoom meeting for scriptwriters and filmmakers. My name's Christine Whitlock, and I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And just to remind everyone that this Zoom meeting is being recorded, and it'll be placed unedited tomorrow on my YouTube channel, and tomorrow you'll get the chat and the document about how to write strong female characters and the YouTube link for tonight's session. So we're supposed to have 18 tonight, but right now we've got just 9. So we'll go around with who came in first and tell us what you did the last 2 weeks when we last saw you. Ardell?
What did I do the last 2 weeks? I got my 3rd novel off to my beta readers, and I did something else. I just can't remember what it was. But I did a lot of relaxing after that. So I'm getting geared because I'm going to have to rewrite it how many times, depending on how many beta readers I have. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Hey, Pat.
I did the Screencraft Virtual Summit last weekend, which was crazy doing it via Zoom and interesting. And I'm still decompressing because it's a lot to take in. And I'm still working on my thriller. It's getting closer. I have the first half of Act 2 to straighten out, and then a little bit of the action in the climax.
Hey. Julian.
Hey there, everybody. Mostly people that know me, but novelist, screenwriter. News. What's new? Well, let's see. Poppycock got a 6 on the blacklist, which wasn't as high as I hoped, but with some good tips. A lot of people seem to keep honing in on that second act as being there's just a lot of verbal comedy, and some people want something to break it up a little bit. So it's just too much comedy, they say. I got another review at Talentville, which had a lot of helpful formatting tips, but that was from an old friend. I'm about done with Talentville. It's almost impossible to get a review there without knowing somebody. I was pretty happy with Coverfly, but somebody dropped out of a review on that too. So really, just my plea to everyone is don't pick up a script review assignment unless you're going to complete it, please, or don't accept it. I'm just like, there's been so many people that just pick up review assignments and then don't do them. And it's just ridiculous. Thanks, Christine, for that ink tip horror lead. Also, I applied to that. That was really very fitting for my horror script, S Brother. And then I found a great ISA lead for a comedy script that I submitted Poppycock to. And then after that week of our last session, Teo Talarico, she was in on the group, and we had a great Zoom session that Thursday night. We talked for 3 hours.
Wow.
All of our interests and ambitions, and we might be doing some collaboration down the road. She's very young, but she's very ambitious and hungry. So has some of the energy that I'm starting to lose. So as I get closer to 50, she's full of pep and viv. So so that was really great. That was a great networking opportunity made possible by these Zoom meetings. So that's what's up with me.
And anything have you heard from the producers that I gave you for your horror script?
Nah,
Nothing yet?
Nothing yet. Yeah, just some polite responses from the ones on LinkedIn. But, I think everything kind of, I don't know, if it's anything like novel queries, it can be months before you hear back from someone. I don't know about it, how it screenplays, but I just know literary agents it's even worse, like up to 3 months or more. People have been getting rejections, but but still, it takes a while to hear back from agents these days. So we shall see. Fingers crossed.
Good. Lori.
Okay. A lot of changes the last couple of weeks. So me and Fatima met last night to do a one-on-one critique session. That went well, although she didn't have any pages, but so we're going to meet once a month. And she's looking into somebody else joining the group, an award-winning Northwest documentarian. And then I joined another screenwriters group and getting critiqued on Thursday. And then I just asked people if they wanted to be in a group, and all of a sudden my writers chat, a whole bunch of people said, yeah, let's join a group. And so now I'm in way too many critique groups. Like it's overkill. And I've been reading and critiquing pages nonstop. So after my critique on Thursday, I'm gonna drop out of that group. And then I'm just finishing the third act of my screenplay. I've had the synopsis all ironed out. I've done it 3 or 4 times now. So it's getting to the point where I'm putting it in the in final draft. So, and then on top of all that, I've got a lot of great critiques from people about the pilot and my script. So yeah, lots going on, but good news.
And what are the genre of the pilot and the script?
So the pilot is called Go Forth and Prosper. It's a drama plus comedy television pilot. And Glow is the feature screenplay I'm writing. The genres are drama and supernatural.
Okay. John Cook, we haven't seen you for a bit.
No, I've had some health issues that I've been dealing with, but in the work area, I took a short story and adapted it to a screenplay. It's a comedy. And I just continue to hack away at this, doing an animation at home, a feature length. There was a concert in 1980, Heat Wave. It was sort of a big punk Woodstock, and I'm animating my day there.
And I don't know if you know, but Inktip lets you post your log line on your short script on their website for free.
Inktip.
Inktip.com. I'll make a note to send you where to post it, because it's kind of confusing where to put it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, for your short script on Inktip. Okay, yeah. Doug, what have you been up to?
Talking to me?
Yes, to you.
Just, getting ready to go into production again. I'm rewriting another short, getting it polished, and I'm on the prowl for a crew, and we'll see if we can't get it together. I'm also still working on my showcase program, but I can't get into the studio. The city still has everything shut down, so not much I can do. I was going to tell Alex that, I've got the thing that he sent me, and it's on the schedule, but we don't know when the schedule is going to be. And I'm also trying to entice the city into allowing us to set up a new film festival here in Oregon.
Yeah, we won't hear from Alex for a few weeks because he's shooting a film in Georgia. So yeah, that'll be interesting when we find out more about it when he comes back. Okay, John Lewis.
Good evening, all from New York City. Hope everyone's doing good. What have I been doing? Yeah, I've been a busy boy, mostly in the theater world. I know we're supposed to be talking movies and screenplays and television and all that, but it's all related, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
It's storytelling. And I had my reading of a play I wrote called A Catchy Song and a Shiny Light in Socrates, New York, which is about an hour and a half north of me here in the city. was this past Saturday. It went great. I was pleasantly surprised at how well it went, and it's a sign of life. Things are slowly but surely bouncing back, coming back. It was a little chilly up there. We did it in the afternoon, but got a crowd of about 40 or 45 people actually showed up, braved the weather, and were very attentive, which was a nice surprise too. They were engaged, they were reacting, and got some feedback. And that's really the whole purpose of the whole stage reading, was to get feedback, you know, and hear it on its feet, have some life breathed into it. So that was nice. Yeah, I'm going to get back to a lot of screenplays that I've written over the last few years. I will dust some of those off. You've heard me talk about some of them here over the last several months since I've joined the group, but we will get back to those, and working on another play. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. So
Great.
good to be back.
Casey, can you tell us what you've been up to for the last little while? Okay, while we're waiting for for her, what about Wyatt? Tell us what you're doing.
I wasn't here the last one. I missed that, unfortunately. Also spent the last 2 weeks, John Cook, like you, in incredible back spasms and taking lots of drugs. So it's a bit foggy what I've done the last 2 weeks. But I know that I've done 6 script coverages for a pilot, a feature, several shorts, and a friend's story. And I find that I learn every time I do coverage for somebody else too, and I really enjoy doing that. I'm part of a Zoom Reads group, and we read fresh scripts. Alex Marino has joined in, and we've got a couple that he had coming up also. But they're reading mine called Reasonable Time on Wednesday. We do that, of course, over Zoom. We've got over 700 members in that group now. Like we're all actors and writers and just helping to promote everybody's work. What else have I done? Trying to break story on a horror feature. Horror is not something I write, so I'm breaking that very slowly, kind of like sawing a log with a butter knife kind of thing. So definitely taking my time on it, and just, polishing up a couple of other features. And that's about it. Doing workshops,
Good. Casey, are you with us now?
Yes.
Tell us.
Yes, sorry. I didn't know how to unmute. Thank you, Julian. A lot's been happening the last couple of weeks. You wait and wait after you pitch for something, and then everything comes together. I'm currently interviewing several agents that I sent them a query letter and they liked my pilot. So I'm interviewing 4 different agents. And then a pilot that I pitched to in January 2020 just got greenlighted. So I'm on the phone with producers doing branding, and they're letting me cast and pick locations and stuff. So that's really exciting. And then I have another pilot that producers are interested and they want me to do a series bio and a pitch deck. So I'm working on that. And then a feature film I did a couple years ago is getting distributed. So a lot of stuff going on right now.
So what are the genres of your pilots?
I do social justice, so it's drama.
So social justice and drama, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really into casting, so the producers are letting me pretty much have say so of who's casting, who would I like to cast. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, great. So Nick, what about you?
Hi, everybody. So pretty much I've been continuing working on my romantic comedy, and yeah, there was a spring break, my nephew and niece, so I got a little busy with that. But I tried to take out my time to work on it as much as I could. I also reviewed the conflict document Christine sent out. That was really helpful, and I try to incorporate those tips into my rewrites. So I'm actually on the rewriting. And Alex sent me a few sample scripts that he thought would be good, and I've also been reading the scripts and working on rewriting. And you know, I am novice, so you know, it is taking me a little bit more time. But yeah, I'm just incorporating all the resources you guys, Christine, sending me. Those are really helpful, and yeah, building up my script and rewriting it, and yeah.
Good. So myself, I've been working on my pilot, my mystery Christmas pilot, and doing the Bible on that, and also working on my one horror script. I decided to change the title because I thought it gave away the ending too much. And I made sure I checked out if anybody else had that title, because the one that I wanted, it was already out there, and it was a pretty relevant horror movie, so I didn't want to have the same title. And I got a query from a gentleman through LinkedIn, because I had posted looking for an exchange of horror scripts. So I just went through his today, and it was very interesting, because for being a horror script, in the first 10 pages, to me, it didn't say anything about horror. And it was more like a dramedy. So it'll be interesting what he comes back with, the comments. And then Pat said she wanted to exchange scripts pages. So we'll be doing that starting on Wednesday. And, you know, because the whole purpose of this group is to help each other and to sell scripts, and you know, to make and sell movies. So, you know, with our helping each other, and any advice or referrals is great. So I guess John has just walked away, so I'll have to wait till he comes back and get him to introduce himself before we get into the topic of tonight: how to write strong female characters. So I'm interested just in the horror writing right now. So like I said, I've got 2 people reading my pages. So I think that's enough for now, because I'm also trying to finish my Vampire Dentist, making it into a novel, and going through another rewrite. So John, tell us about what you've been up to since we last saw you.
Okay, well, I told you I had finished the rewrite of my first script, and I've spent the past 2 weeks, excuse me, sending queries out, and I've gotten about 19 reads. So that's pretty good out of 200 queries. It's about almost 10%. They say the average is about 6 to 4%. I've gotten about 2 or 3 of those who asked if they can pass it on up to the next person of the company, which is pretty good. I have about 200 more queries out. I also have another rewrite that's with the editor, and I'm waiting for that one to come back, which is a different script.
And what genre is this script?
The first one, the one that's out there?
Yes.
It's a crime drama. I used to list it as a dramedy because there's a lot of humor in it. But one of the coverage things I got back said you're doing a disservice doing that, because they're thinking it's a whole different type of script. So it's technically listed as a crime drama with a lot of comedy in it.
And the second one?
The second one that actually is also a crime drama, and I have a third one. I have actually 4 right now. One is a dramedy. That one's a crime drama. And the last one is a nonlinear dual narrative crime drama.
Great. Okay, any other comments or things to share, Doug?
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to cut out here because I have another pre-production meeting with a DP and an editor coming up in a couple of minutes. So we'll see if you're around another couple of weeks.
Okay,
See you
great.
around.
Yes, so the next meeting is Monday, May the 3rd.
Okay, and I expect to see some of you guys getting ready to go to production, right? If not, nah.
Not in
Okay.
I wish.
Ontario.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Christine, I had a question about like collaboration. So, what do you recommend? I believe Lori mentioned that her and Fatima are, meeting up and they're collaborating. Do you recommend collaborating? Do you recommend, like, and if you are starting out?
If you're going to be co-writing a script, you make sure that you have a document in place with all of your information, name, address, phone number, email. Also, you need the social insurance number because when you go to register your script on WGA, they require that. And also make it known that if you're going to be splitting any expenses, just like the registration and any memberships, like on InkTip or Network ISA, and who is the one person that is going to be, if there is going to be one person who is more active than the other, whose name will go forward first, and then they say this is written by these two people, because like I have 3 co-written scripts, and I do the marketing, and so if it all comes through my email, and then when I send out things, I CC the other person to show that I've been doing that. Now, if there's any concerns, like if you think you're going to be having more time doing it, then you should negotiate more than a 50-50 split. Like if the other person is, busy with their own full-time job or doing something else, and they're really more of a, like it was their life story, and you're the writer, like they're not really a writer person, and you're doing more of the marketing, then it should be a different than 50-50 split. So think about that kind of agreement. As long as you both sign it, I've never had any problems like that. You don't have to go to a lawyer unless, like you're really freaking out about it kind of thing, because, you're going to pay a few $100 about it. But as long as you've got it on paper and you've both signed it, and you've got all your personal information, then you should be all right.
Thank you. That helped. Yeah.
Julian, you had a question?
Oh, just wanted to share. I just wanted to tell folks about Script Top a little bit more. And what a really neat thing is that if you build your packet and you click for the feedback button, you will get a free analysis of your Script Top packet. And so I've done this twice now, and it's personalized. Somebody writes you and tells you, tips and what they think, and and so I found it very helpful. It really taught me how to do the highlight reel the right way, how to do character descriptions according to industry standards, how to do your synopsis and the entry points and all that stuff. So I think they're kind of still a small company. The CEO actually followed me on Twitter, but they're small, but it's a really good way to pitch your scripts. But so for now, they're offering this free feedback. If they get big, they'll probably stop offering free feedback. But I think for right now, it'd be wise to look into it. My
What is
biggest
it called, Julian? What is it called? Sorry.
script hop. I'll type that in the
Okay, great.
chat too. But the only downside I think so far is that like there's no way, like you create this whole packet for your script, but then there's not a way to like easily download it like into a PDF or anything like that. Where people make pitch decks, they usually have a PDF that they create or something. This is just strictly online. You give people a link and then they go look at the website. But yeah, right now I would say like take advantage if you're interested in something like that. The feedback is free, so do your best and then let them tell you what needs to be fixed or what you're getting wrong. So script hop, look into it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so tonight's topic is how to write strong female characters. So I got this off of the Masterclass website. And it says, strong characters come in all shapes, sizes, and genders. Every creator has a different idea of how strength is expressed. But there are a few ways to ensure your audience understands the type of character you're created when your focus is on writing a strong female character. So they said there's 4 characteristics. So 1, she has her own opinions. The strong female lead will listen to her own instincts and make her own decisions based on her own value system. Even villains have their reasons for their choices. So very early on in this Zoom meeting, back last year, I had sent out a character chart that you should put together on each of your characters. So if you've done that properly, then you would put some of those items into your character chart and then introduce them when you're writing your script. So she'll make mistakes, but she'll always try to learn from them. A strong character isn't immune to influence, but they have their own thoughts and feelings about their world and the things that happen within it. So in that respect, I would say that you'd have to make sure in your character chart that you put what her world is and her background and her family and the people that have influenced her. Second, she is her own person. Strong female characters don't all have to be single, independent women. They can be in relationships and care about their partners without being weak or codependent. However, a strong female character has her own identity and trajectory that follows, as well as her own ambitions and goals outside of her relationship with any person. Now, with women, they are mostly given the sandwich situation that they are in the middle between their children and their parents, and they have to deal with all these intergenerational aspects. So again, you know, how does the female deal with this? I see Doug's coming back in. 3, she has flaws. Strong female characters have struggles and flaws just like everyone else, but what makes them strong is how they deal with their shortcomings. Even the strongest characters have weaknesses, but that's what humanizes them and makes them relatable to audiences. Because if anyone is too perfect, then the audience isn't going to be able to relate to them, because I don't know anyone who doesn't have some kind of problem in their life. They either have money problems, health problems, work problems, relationship problems, and the type of person that they are is how they deal with these problems. 4, she's tough in her own right. What makes a female tough? The term is subjective. Is toughness just a character's ability to physically bring down foes? Or can it be her ability to think fast under pressure or negotiate with powerful figures? A stay-at-home mom can be just as tough as a soldier. A woman's role does not necessarily dictate who she is as a person. So like I said, the women have all kinds of roles, and especially single parents have a lot of responsibilities. So 4 examples of strong female characters. 1 is Buffy Summers, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, is a powerful heroine with awesome fighting skills who can be both tough, even when chasing a love interest, and empathetic, even towards those who have wronged her. She is a 3-dimensional character, and she always tries to do the right thing. Now, the one I really enjoyed was Ellen Ripley. Sigourney Weaver plays alien fighting heroine Ellen Ripley in the film Alien. Ellen Ripley is straightforward, physically strong, and a smart main character. But she also has strong maternal instincts that sometimes drive her decisions. All of these traits coexist with one another without lessening the strength of her character. So that's interesting about maternal instincts. So that could be certainly something that plays in a woman who has to decide whether she wants to have a child out of wedlock or is really going to try to find someone to marry or cohabitate with. Katniss Everdeen. In Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games, Katniss is a young woman living in a dystopian world who volunteers her own life in order to protect her younger sister. While sometimes impulsive and susceptible to the manipulation of others, Katniss grows throughout her story arc, becoming a skilled warrior who makes sacrifices to keep the ones she loves from harm. Although she has love interests, most of her decisions are based on survival and not romance, because as long as she's alive, she can keep her family safe. Now, this next one I was surprised about because it's quite a younger female, Hermione Granger in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. Hermione is a strong female character, not just because of her talented wizarding abilities, but because of her fearless opinions and her ability to use intelligence to solve problems. Her backstory only emphasizes her meteoric rise from muggle to heroic wizard, as she is able to surpass people's expectations of her abilities and succeed. Now, the one thing I haven't seen is women with handicaps, like physical handicaps in a lot of stories, and of course, a lot of older characters. Now, Ellen Ripley with Sigourney Weaver, she would have been a middle-aged woman in those stories, so that's one thing, but doesn't always have to be, the 18 to 24-year-old characters. There are stories and experiences that middle-aged and older women have that a lot of people can relate to. So it says, how to write strong female characters. Give her complex emotions. Vulnerability and emotional depth are important characteristics for good characters of any gender. A strong woman shouldn't be written as a one-dimensional trope. She can be a stoic warrior who cries when her best friend dies, or a sweet kindergarten teacher who boxes to deal with her rage. People are complicated and often unpredictable, so giving your female character the same complex range of emotions you yourself experience as a human being is a good way to start writing stronger characters. So again, we all have the same emotions, and how do you deal with them with your characters in your scripts? The next thing is give her multiple kinds of strengths. Physical strength isn't everything. Even the most hulking adversary can be taken down by smart tactical fighting. And a female lead doesn't have to be a bodybuilder or professional athlete in order to be strong. There are different types of strength that female characters exert. They can have confidence, wit, and mental fortitude. They can be brilliant scientists who stand up for themselves when no one else who listen. They can be stay-at-home moms who won't tolerate their spouse leaving a mess. Female characters have their own strong opinions and morality and aren't just generalized for being women. I can't remember the name of the movie where they had 3 Black women as scientists for one of the
Numbers?
Was it Numbers? And
I can't.
No, I
Hidden
know what
Figures,
you're.
I
Hidden
think.
Figures.
Hidden Figures.
Figures. There we go.
Hidden
Figures.
and the various strengths that they had, because they also had to deal with family issues, and then of course during that time the prejudice and isolation of their race. So that was something. And right now, because of this COVID issue, there's a lot of racism against Asian people, because, you know, they say the COVID started in China, and so there's all kinds of Asian people who have nothing to do with COVID that are being jumped upon in various ways. So, and you know, even physically beaten because people have strange feelings about COVID and where it started.
Yeah, I mean, the shows I'm watching, like A Million Little Things and This Is Us, they all highlight that, you know, like all the racism towards Asian Americans right now. So yeah, they are already starting to incorporate it in a lot of shows. Yeah.
Give her female allies. Sometimes writers try to make a female character appear stronger by turning her into a tomboy who only has male friends. However, your female protagonist can just as easily draw strength from the women who surround her. Giving your female lead character female friends can help her feel more like a real life person. In the thriller that I've written, my female police reporter is helped by one of the TV production staff, and they become friends. And in fact, she fights a lot with her camera person. So, you know, she doesn't deal well with him because he's very prejudiced, and we find out more about him as the script continues. Give her more than her looks. Describe the way your female protagonist looks in a way that informs who she is. Does she have a defining physical feature that is integral to the storyline? Does her body language denote a particular personality trait? Brainstorm ways to avoid or subvert cliches. She was pretty but didn't know it, which can weaken an audience's first impression of your character. I think this change has really happened in commercials. There are certainly a lot of different female body shapes now than there was, years ago. There was always the beautiful, tall, thin women, but now it's all different kinds of shapes and sizes and races and interaction between these characters. So it's interesting to note. So does anyone have any comments about the female characters in their scripts? Doug?
Yeah, sorry I had to leave you and come back. Those people didn't perform, so I don't work with those people. You're talking about female characters. Now, I like to think of them as characters. I don't like to think of them as female or male or in between or whatever you want to think about them. A character in a story is a character. And it has a storyline and a plot line that is attached to that character. Now, when I look at strong female characters, I think of Xena, the warrior princess, or, Hermione in the Harry Potter's movies or stuff like that. I think of Charlie's Angels from the years gone by and stuff like that. So, we all have these prejudicial visions in our mind. I mean, when we look at male characters like MacGyver and, Macmillan and Wife and people like that, we have these natural inborn traits to our being. So I don't see any point in dwelling on female versus male, white versus black, anything. These are characters. They're fictional. They don't exist. And that's all they are. And if you're going to tell a story, your characters will have to carry the story. All I have to say.
So I was looking for some feedback in this character that I'm writing. And basically the story is loosely based on the Faustian bargain, where two brothers, an evil brother, and good guy and a bad guy, place a bet on whether this gentleman is good guy or bad guy. The love interest is a performer in a dance hall. It's based in the 1920s. But when I'm trying to build this character, like she's a performer, so there's the aspect of a very flat, one-dimensional character, but that's her performer. That's her character in the film. But when she shows her true self, the one that I think of, and again, I wonder how many people have seen Blue Velvet. It's, again, an older film. But what you thought of the character that Isabella Rossellini plays? And especially there's, again, I don't know how many people remember the film or saw it, but there's a scene where Kyle MacLachlan has snuck into her apartment and he's in the closet and she discovers him, and all of a sudden, and she's, again, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, she's trapped in a horrible, horrible spot with this evil, evil guy. But a weaker character comes along, this weaker man comes along, and she takes advantage of that situation to exert some power. So I guess it helps if you've seen the film. Has anybody seen or remember Blue Velvet?
It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, so just, that, I don't know if you remember the scene where Isabella Rossellini confronts Kyle MacLachlan, like, who are you? Who are you? And she's finally got power over a man, and there's just something, I mean, she was so awesome, and obviously the cinematography, music, everything about that film is fantastic. But if you call that a strong character,
she's complex. She's not your standard damsel in distress. When she gets, like you said, when she gets the knife in her hand, things get a little bit weird from her perspective too. Like she's got some interesting. She's not as bad as Frank Booth, the Dennis Hopper character, of course, but yeah, she's complex. She's not just some simple Rapunzel, you know.
Yeah, and it seemed like the one thing I'm trying to avoid, it seemed like there's some damage there with that character, like there's some sort of.
Yeah, well, the damage is mostly all the damage. I mean, we see that she's had so much damage inflicted on her by the Dennis Hopper character, Frank Booth, through the kidnapping and through the sexual abuse. So
Yeah.
that seems to be enough, you know, to
Yeah.
throw her
Sorry, I
off
shouldn't laugh.
because Frank's a handful.
Now, the question I wanted to give to the group is, I recently read 10 pages of somebody's script, and it had to do with these vampires. And he put in that the female character was Asian. And I was questioning that. Like, why would you want that character to be Asian? And of course, in the first 10 pages, there wasn't anything like whether the history or physicality or fighting skill of that female made it necessary that she be Asian. When you write your characters, do you make a ethnicity about it? And if you do, is there a reason for it? Doug's shaking his head.
Not unless it's pertinent to the story. Otherwise, a character is just a character. And if you try to temper your story to make it a female-only film, you cut off half your market. If you try to temper it to make it just a male muscle man film, at Muscle Beach down in Venice, you cut off half your market. So, the idea is just bring your characters to life. Don't worry about their ethnicity. Don't worry about your color. Don't worry about anything. Just bring the characters to life. That's all I'm saying.
Unless it was that one movie with all the Asian people, right? The rich Asians. Like they all had to be Asians because of the story.
Crazy Rich Asians, yeah.
But if it's appropriate to the story, that's fine. That's one thing. If it's not really significant or important to the story, forget about it. You're trying to, if you're trying to preach to the woke snowflake ears, just don't bother. Really, just don't bother.
I think, Doug, you were saying about Charlie's Angels. Now, I think the newest version, they had different ethnicity within the girls.
They may have, but that doesn't really matter. That's the point that I'm making, is their ethnicity doesn't really amount to anything. It doesn't matter. I don't care if they have an Asian or Australian or whatever, Japanese or whatever. It does not matter. It's the character that matters.
So in that respect, the ethnicity decided for that character was decided by the director and the producer. It would,
yeah, and the casting director.
The casting director, and it wouldn't necessarily have been on the page.
No, wouldn't.
Unless, because it doesn't matter what ethnicity it is for you to learn some of those, Asian fighting techniques, right? Like anybody can be any ethnicity to learn those fancy Asian kickboxing or whatever, kung fu.
Sure, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know what I've seen of some Asian authors on Twitter and stuff have, kind of expressed like a longing to see Asian characters who are just people that, they're not made Asian just because they're going to be good at martial arts or something like that, Protagonist of my novel, Ginny Q, in The Secrecy of Desires, part Asian. And that's just kind of a reflection that my wife at the time was half Filipino. And it doesn't really play a real role in the story, but it is part of her character in that she, and her friend are so close that they will rag on each other for who they are. Her friend is gay, she's part Asian. They make kind of tasteless jokes to each other about each other, and that just expresses that they have that level of comfortableness and friendship. But she's like most of the Asian people I know, pretty Americanized. But it's not. It's just texture, I don't think it was necessarily. It didn't need to be part of the story, but it, unless I'm going to purposely choose a character who would never speak about what race they might be at all, it was just a character texture for me. So
can you get pinned down if there's, like in female character, because for female characters, if there's, if it is Asian in the script, and there's some stereotypes, how much do you have to look into the stereotypes, and how integral is it so you don't cross the line?
Most of you have seen a film called Kill Bill, right? Uma Thurman was in it. I know Uma from years back. And would it have been a better film if that was cast or required an Asian actress who had those skills or not? Ask yourself that. It's just the character.
Now, Nick, you have a romance comedy, don't you? That you've got two different ethnicities.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. The Indian. So yeah, the moms and the Indian American. His mom is from India. She's an immigrant, and there's a South American family too. Like the twin sisters are South Americans too. They came here maybe when they're in high school. That's what.
Nick, what's the theme of your story?
I'm still I'm still developing it. But
you're still developing a theme.
Well,
but you're requesting or requiring that you have actress from different ethnic backgrounds. So if you're requiring that, then that's your theme, isn't it?
Okay.
It's the relationship between those ethnicities. It's not the relationship between the individual characters. It's the relationship between those two ethnicities. Keep that in mind.
Okay. Sure.
And what ethnicity is your female character, Nick?
She's supposed to be South American, like Peru American. So, originally from South America.
Spanish.
Spanish type, So there's similar cultures, but the point of the story is to reflect that even within similar cultures where there's a lot of family oriented, there's still differences, and so it's a comic about that.
Yeah, if I'm just going to chime in here, I agree for the most part with what Mr. Nelson has been talking about. It really just comes back to story and characters. It really doesn't matter, race doesn't really matter, and even gender for the overall really doesn't matter. Again, it just goes back to story and character. Now, of course, we're talking about women characters and building strong women characters, and clearly there are some what's the nuance that's going to differentiate. I have a script. It's called Running with the Devil, and I think I've talked about it here over the last few months. It's about Catherine Switzer, the first woman who officially ran the Boston Marathon in 1967. And Christine was talking about handicap. Well, I think clearly in 1967, being a woman wanting to run the Boston Marathon, that was a handicap. It's like, you can't do this. You're not even allowed to run, and that was a huge handicap that she had to overcome. And she did. because she's smart, and she kind of outsmarted the system, so to speak, and actually got a bib number and showed up at the starting line and was an official entry, you know, and that's what got her in trouble. And she had to get out of that trouble, and that's what the story is about. But again, going back to what Doug was saying, you know, all this kind of stuff we're talking about, you know, he brought up Charlie's Angels. Charlie's Angels really, in the end, is about three chicks who can kick ass, you know, so, and they're smart and they're sassy and they're fun and they're agents and they're, you know, they're good with guns and they're good with kicking ass and being sexy at the same time. So whether you make them Asian or African-American or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You have three chicks who can kick ass. Find three chicks who can kick ass and you got your movie. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Piggybacking on what John and Doug said too, you got to remember you're writing a story in an era. And wherever your story takes place, for example, if you're writing it in the 50s and 60s and you have Asian people and the way people address them and everything else, they're going to address them differently than today. If you try to be PC in that thing, there's no realism in it. You know, the one I'm rewriting right now is a 1950s detective one, private eye one. And, you know, there is some interaction there with other races. It just comes in because of the neighborhoods. And they're not going to address people the same way they do now. And people aren't going to get upset at little things here and there like they do now and everything else. But if you try to do that to be PC, so some producer says, okay, you checked all the boxes, they're not even going to look at it before they check the boxes off. You know, I just had one person talking about my script, read it and said, and he said, do you think this person or this person could be a star? And he was just testing me. He didn't have the ability to get these people. And I said, yeah, we'd have to do a rewrite with the name, that's all, because the name is an Italian name. So you would have to just change the name. But the person would be the same. He's a former New York City police detective who's in New Mexico now. What difference does it make who he is? I can actually flip the husband and wife and make her the detective if I wanted to. Okay. And one thing what Christine said that I just think people go overboard with nowadays is that we try to make women powerful all the time, and there are women who are subservient. And if you only have powerful women in your movie, it's not going to work. And if you're back in the 50s when a lot of women were just housewife, it's not going to work. You know, if you try making them as executives and everything else, you have to write your story, like Doug said and John said. I don't know if that made sense, but that's just my 2 points.
It makes all kinds of sense. You know, it's all about your story. It's not about the characters. And the other thing that I'd like to mention is that if you're going to write it if you're setting your story in the 50s, in the 30s, whenever, write it in the language of the time. Don't write it in the language of today. You know, we have a whole bunch of snowflakes running around who want everybody to be woke about this, that, and everything else. But in reality, these words that everybody is trying to avoid using now, the dreaded N-word, was quite common in the language of the 50s and the 60s and the 40s. So if you're setting your story in that time, don't write it in today's language. Set it in those times.
And you especially have to be careful of the slang, because the slang has certainly changed from the 40s, 50s to now.
Oh, you betcha there, saxophone. It really has. I mean, you know, you have to understand the language and the terms. The language changes from one part of the country to another. Even today, you put on running shoes or sneakers. I mean, you know, do you drink Pepsi or do you drink cola? You know, do you say you all or yous guys? I mean, it depends on what part of the country you're in. You have to learn to speak American if you're going to write for an American market. Now, I've tried writing for the British market and the Australian market, and I'm here to tell you, I can't do it. And I have looked at scripts that are written by British and Australian writers, damn good stories are no good for a script because they don't speak the language. And so if you're going to write an American story set in the 1950s, learn the language in America in 1950s, period. I'll say.
And the other thing with that, the area of the country too. And I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, I used to work in the Carvel warehouses. I went out on a truck, and the driver had come down from up in either Massachusetts or Connecticut, and I went back out with him to unload some stuff. We went for a ride, and he says, "You want a wedgie?" And I said, "A wedgie?" And he goes, "Yeah, a wedgie." And I said, "A wedgie? What's a wedgie?" And I got a little intimidated. I thought maybe he was, going to attack me or something like that. It was a sub. That's all it was. It was a hero. That's all it was. But that's the term that where he came from that they used, and it's, you have to understand that out there too. I mean, I wrote a Western and I did a lot of research. If I wanted to write a certain term that I knew in today, I went back and went online and looked what it was back then and how people said it back then. Insults back then were not what people, Deadwood is not true of what it was back then. They didn't use the F-bomb every other word. They did things like call them a horse or something like that, or insult their farms or insult their houses or something like that. And that was bigger than using the F-bomb. And people don't understand that because they want to see the glorified thing, but it wasn't really realistic. That wasn't realistic. So that's just my take on it. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm still learning. So that's pretty much it.
Well, even today, when you start talking about, Christine, you're from Canada. You don't speak American. Now, we can understand you and you can understand us, but we do not speak the same language. I hate to tell you that.
Hey.
Yeah, eh?
Just want to add a little thing is that, when you have period accurate dialogue, you definitely want to be accurate to that period, but also you have to keep in mind your author's voice, which doesn't apply to as much to a screenplay, more to a novel. But I got into a little bit of trouble. And of course, the best way if you're going to write outside of yourself is to have someone from that group read. And I got in a little bit of trouble because I described my character's eyes as being almond-like. And I discovered that actually Asian folks tend to hate having their eyes described as almond-shaped. And in a screenplay, that could hit you in your your description of action. Or you describe your character and you say, "Oh, she's got almond eyes," that could set somebody off. But what I learned actually is if you look at eyes, actually, the people who have almond-shaped eyes are white people. White people have almond-shaped eyes. Asian people do not. But the good thing is that I fixed it after I got that feedback. So even if you had characters in the 50s, your author voice would not want to watch out for little bonds like that, because obviously you're not going to call them a slur or something like that. So just good thing to be mindful about. Have a reader from that group, and also having women read my novel was super helpful as well, because then I found out that I was doing some male writer things, and so I just listened and then I fixed it. So,
And the other thing you have to check, depending on what year it is people's names, because what was common in the 50s is not common now. You don't have any Irmas and Bettys and Marys as often now as Britneys and Ashleys. So you have to change your names for both male and female. And then my nephew's kids, they've named the three kids after gamer characters. So they're totally different. You had something to say, Ardell?
I was just going to say that's so true. When I'm naming my characters, I do go and I say born in 1950, male, New England or Canada or Britain, to get a list of the 100 most common names in that area at that time. And I learned this when I was naming my daughter in 1976. I named her after an 85-year-old woman. I thought it was going to be the most unique name ever. And Amber turns out to be 3 of them in her class. So, you can guess wrong.
There might have been 3 in 1976, but there's 300 now. So Amber is is not unique.
That's right. But this Amber Lizelle was born in like 1900. So I thought, this is a nice, safe name, nice old name.
And the physicality of women generally has changed over the years, until gyms and running and walking really became common. Women, I think, had a bit more weight on them. They weren't the really skinny model types. I don't know, when that came about with the French.
That also came about in the 60s. A model, Twiggy, which was,
Yes.
and she was a twig. And that's where the super skinny models started.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that women only got the right to vote about 90 years ago. Before that, we were second-class citizens. And it took quite a while for us to get our rights as equal partners. And we're still fighting for it. So you have to take that into consideration too, the different eras that you're in. So in the 50s, a woman's mindset basically is home and hearth. There are the outliers that went into science or business or whatnot, but basically it was Donna Reed and Father Knows Best, woman at home with her pearls and day dress, which drove me crazy because my mother never wore a dress, ever. Well, she did wear dresses, but not around the house, not to do cleaning. In the 60s, it was a little bit more liberated as the hippies came in and started protesting the war and whatnot, and things started loosening up.
Even in the 50s, etiquette was so different.
Yeah.
Even the 60s and the 70s. I mean, I can remember when a man would walk on the outside of the sidewalk. And that comes from England, in the days when the second story was an overhang and the woman was walking under the overhang and the man was walking out there where the slops could come out of the second story window into the sewer in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of things that,
Yeah.
and now if a car door is held for a woman, sometimes they're insulted. It's just so much has changed.
It's a pendulum. Things go way to that side, way to this side. The idea is trying to find something right in the middle.
Yeah.
Or balance it with someone over here and someone over there.
And that's the same for fashions. You keep your clothes for 50 years, you'll be able to
They'll
wear
come
them a
back.
second time.
Yeah. If you don't want people to look up your skirt, then don't wear a skirt that just comes
Yeah,
2
that
inches
barely
below
covers your
crotch.
butt. Yeah.
Just for me.
If you reveal it, you invite stares.
What were you going to say, John?
Oh, just again, I find that intriguing where what would be a powerful woman in the 50s? You guys said pearls and the perfect clean house or whatever would be a successful woman or
Eleanor
again-
Roosevelt. Francis, his Secretary of State, Francis, I forget her last name, but she was the first woman appointed to a cabinet position under Roosevelt.
Yeah. And again, to me, it seems like when you're have those restrictions, like how do you show that strength? Like they can't be kung fu fighter or, you know, just a loudmouth. Like even show their intelligence. Sometimes I find,
Yeah, well,
you know, that
But they would still be able to have high-ranking roles, like in the PTA or fundraisers for different charities and things like that.
right.
churches or anything, like you said before, maternal instincts, that would be played up a lot.
Yeah. I wonder too
Someone who
about,
could gather the crew together to focus on something.
yeah. And again, I'm wondering about like in the 20s and the sort of the jazz era where it seems like, you know, from it again, you know, my references are movies. So Cabaret, a movie like that would be, especially in Germany or, you know, more liberal countries than the States, I guess, you know, that would, in the 20s, the women would have power through sexuality. There would be that brief blip, you know, that, I don't know. Again, I'm fascinated by how they deal with power in their own time.
A lot of times, I think it's behind the scenes, like the woman behind the man. And that goes way back to when women were considered property. And if you wanted to have some degree of self-governance, if you had that intelligence, you learned how to work the system. Not everybody was successful. Not everybody wanted to do it. But the ones that did found a way to do it.
Yeah, and I think there are some good modern examples in the last year or two of strong female characters in television and movies. Marvelous Miss Maisel, early 60s period piece. She's not kicking ass with her feet in her hands, but she's smart and funny. You know, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That's what, 30s?
Yeah.
It's a strong female character, isn't it?
Bletchley Circle.
You know, and
Bletchley Circle had a lot of strong female leads.
And there's bad ones out there too. I thought of a movie that came out, I think 2019, Harriet, about Harriet Tubman, the Underground Railroad. Well, they completely went the other direction. They made her Rambo. You know, she's toting guns and she's kicking ass and she's, you know, with a sawed-off shotgun, and she didn't do any of that. You know, they took plenty of very long liberties that were. I never saw the movie. I saw the trailer a few times and just fell to the ground laughing. And I don't think the movie did very well at the box office. Not that that really is indicative of the story or the producers or anything, but it didn't do well. But you know, I think that's an example of trying to be politically correct, of trying to make someone that she wasn't. You know, Harriet Tubman was brave. She was courageous. She was smart, but she wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a warrior. You know.
And it seems
That
to me
kind of reminds me of Carrie Nation and her movement against alcohol in the early part of the century. And I go all the way back to where I'm thinking about characters like that. I'm thinking about Mrs. Lincoln. You know, other than that little unfortunate incident, what did you think of the play, Mrs. Lincoln? And, you know, to get into people of the time, the mind of people at the time.
Yeah, and to me, like again, I did read a fair amount about Carrie Nation, and again, what I found kind of part of her story was just how abusive her father was, and I guess he was a real drunk, and you know, could get away with a lot of violence that you couldn't get away with today, you know, and that was sort of one of her great inspirations to be as strong as she was, to do some of the things that she did, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the question I have then, does that make the woman a strong female character, or does that make the woman a strong character? And that, I think, is the issue that we really have to deal with. That's why I say I don't really care for this male, female, race, black, white, whatever. It doesn't matter. I look for the character.
Yeah.
And, you know, you look at someone like Carrie Nation, that was a strong character. Right, wrong, or indifferent, however you feel about it, she was a strong character.
Even in the new I mean globally they're addressing strong female characters. I mean there was a show that Netflix produced called Bombay Begums. It's about contemporary India, but they address the Me Too movement and the actual like executives in banking industry, like women executives in the banking industry, but just yeah. So, but yeah. Yeah, how would you, I mean, I've seen like a lot of shows and new movies that address like Me Too movement, especially like global shows like in India and Bollywood. How would you relate that into the Me Too movement?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Oh, I'm saying like, just like, I mean, how would you, like with everything going on in contemporary, especially with, I mean, like Me Too movement is getting more acknowledged in other parts of the country, like in India. How would that, fit into the, female characterizations, like contemporary female characterization?
I still don't
Depends on,
understand a word you're saying.
I think it depends on what kind of story you want to write, Nick.
Okay.
I mean, if you want a Rambo-esque type story, she could go
Okay.
ballistic for being abused or whatnot. If you want someone who's more social drama,
Yeah.
she could go through the system and find out how to change the laws or get somebody arrested. It depends on what kind of story you're writing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It-
Great.
A woman wronged is a common theme. Just look at the movie Peppermint. Mind you, that was the murder of her husband and child, but still, it's a woman wronged, and
Okay.
and that's the Rambo avenue, not the intellectual academic
Okay.
angle, where you
Okay.
make activist, where you do make political change or cause political change.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just think that, I mean, as writers, and we're all writers in this group. It's a question I'm often asked. What do you start with, John? The person will ask, story or character? And I think it depends. So sometimes it is just, it's characters that I'm thinking of, and then I decide what world to put them in, and then the story starts developing. Or because I like to write a lot of history, it'll be the story first, and then I'll go to the characters second. And how do I, because the characters are real people, how are they fitting into the world that already exists?
Mhm.
And,
The way I look at it is you start out with conflict, then you add character, then you add construction. In other words, conflict, character, story, construction. Simple. It's not rocket science.
You
we were
can't have a
talking
story
about
without
conflict last
character.
week, so
Thank you.
perfect.
I was just noticing that the Canadian $10 bill has won the top prize in international banknote competition because we featured the Canadian civil rights activist Viola Desmond on our $10 bill. And so she is a black activist in Canada that we've put on our $10 bill. I just thought that was kind of interesting that she caused big changes with a passive attitude.
We're supposed to get Harriet Tubman on the 20th, I think, but who knows when that will happen.
Yeah.
Well, the protagonist in my thriller script was loosely based on myself. As an associate producer, I worked 15 years for cable television, and I also produced a TV show at the CHCH TV here in Hamilton, and then the main character in my Wine Crimes TV pilot is based on me and my girlfriend. Like, we spent 2 summers bicycling from Toronto to Niagara to research for me to write a book on 30 maps, bicycling loops. And so I have these 2 women who are bicycling to different wineries and then coming upon murders. Well, we never came upon any murders, but I can talk about what we bicycled to and the different wineries we went to, and then make up these murders that happen there and these other characters.
How many murders do you think Jessica Fletcher actually saw?
Yeah. Or Barnaby.
Yeah. And
I
the
see.
concept there was that every week they killed off another character.
Okay, I'm
With
gonna play
Jessica,
Jessica
it's at least one.
Who's
Pardon me,
Jessica?
John? What did you say, John?
Who's Jessica Fletcher? I'm going to play dumb. I don't
Murder,
know.
She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote. And Doug was in the writer's room, so we have him to thank. Thanks, Doug.
Well, John, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
I
Okay.
am now, but I did put it back on for a second. So
Again,
Because I think she had like almost 200 episodes for Murder, She Wrote.
There were a lot of them.
And
for me, it was
also-
fascinating.
And also,
Sorry.
Agatha Christie wrote Miss Marples. She did quite a few books, and there was quite a few
And
television series based on different older women.
And Poirot. Well, she's no woman, but a lot of series there.
Yes, British television has quite a few women detectives.
Yes.
Agatha Raisin, and
I liked Emma Peel more than others.
Yeah.
yeah,
You like,
yeah.
who was that, Doug?
Emma Peel.
From
she's
the
my favorite.
Avengers.
Yeah,
The Avengers.
because I used to drive a little Lotus just like hers.
Christine Whitlock lives in a world of wine, bikes, and dead bodies.
When I'm not in space.
But for me, again, this big thing that I'm working on, I started with the Faustian bargain, and I thought, well, so I read the Fausti, I read what I could, and again, I believe the character's name was Gretchen, who that he, Dr. Faust, tricks. Anyway, just the way that character got treated. She got seduced by this guy, got pregnant, and then the village kills her, I think. Anyway, there's no way. I thought, I'm not mimicking this part of the story. It just seems, what did this
They'll
poor
teach you
gal
for
do?
getting pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. But it's horrifying. Again, it was just part of it was just how this character was treated in this story. It's horrifying. But again, it was written in 16 something or whatever. So.
And then that kick-ass movie, Salt, with Angelina Jolie.
He does that a lot, that kind of character.
Well, she used to, I think, before her mastectomies.
Yeah.
I don't think she she's done a movie for a while.
She did the Maleficence for Disney.
Oh, yes, yes. But it wasn't kick
Wasn't
ass.
kick? No, it wasn't.
No, it was more subdued.
Murder She Wrote was 264 episodes.
Murder, She Wrote 264?
Yeah, Columbo
Probably.
69. Interesting. Interesting stats.
I know I watch them on the PBS channel, and they've started the cycle again because I've seen every time I try to watch the new one, I've already seen it. So I have to keep trying to find a new one.
I'm waiting for him to start rerunning the old Murder, She Wrote or the old Macmillan and Wife.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of my favorites. And I still like the old Columbos. Those are fun.
Yeah. And I like that, the one with Garner in it.
James Garner, the Rockford Files.
Yeah, Rockford.
Yeah.
Rockford Files, there we go.
Rockford Files.
Yeah, I liked him.
And Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, yeah. That's going back.
And no women anywhere in any of those shows.
That's right.
Actually, in the Man from U.N.C.L.E., they did have women. They had the girl from U.N.C.L.E. for a little while, but all the secretaries in the Man from U.N.C.L.E. were in hot, tight, tiger skin or leopard skin dresses.
You betcha.
That's why we watched. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
And I
You know
love
what
the
the
old Terry
term was
Mason.
that we used for those shows?
What was that, Doug?
T&A shows.
That's right.
No, they were just the eye candy behind the guys.
T&A.
Yeah.
Just like most of the James Bond movies,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
other than Miss Moneypenny, right?
Yeah. Other than Miss Moneypenny. Or once in a while, there was a woman that he couldn't get.
Very rare.
Very rare, though. Yeah.
They got the Queen, that's all, all that mattered.
And if you go back far enough to Bonanza, and every love interest dies.
Mhm.
Every love interest dies.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually,
So-
the biggest womanizer on air was Captain James T. Kirk.
Yeah.
He never met an alien he didn't go to bed with.
Exactly. I always love too where the woman characters, what is this thing called love? And so it'd be Jim's version of how quickly he can seduce her. She doesn't begins off the story. I don't understand this thing called love, but 20 minutes later she's there.
But did he ever have any alien children?
None that we know of. He only had the one son who was not an alien that we found in the movie, The Wrath of Khan, but we lost him in the second movie, or the third movie, The Search for Spock. Came and went. So he's the only kid that we know of.
If you really go back and look at that series, what you realize is that every half hour is a morality play.
Yeah, Roddenberry was really good at tapping into the zeitgeist and putting that stuff into the scripts. He dealt with the war. He dealt with racism. He dealt with women's issues. Yeah, there was a lot of that in there. Some of it subtly, some of it in your face.
Yeah. He was the first to put a black woman in charge, was he not?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lieutenant
Michelle
Uhura.
Nichols played
She was the
Lieutenant
lieutenant.
Aurora. Yes.
Yeah.
Uhura was the communications officer. They technically had the first interracial kiss
Yeah.
between her and Kirk. And they broke some ground. And it was always intelligent, thank God. Some of it was stupid. I mean, some of the scripts that they had in the third year were just dreadful, but that was Paramount's fault. They closed the purse. Said, no, you just work with what you got.
What about Jane Fonda and Barbarella?
Oh, God, yeah. And that was her husband Roger's vanity project, and she was so young and innocent. She went along with it.
One of my favorite powerful female roles was the First Wives Club.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
I absolutely love Bette Midler.
Yeah.
And then they did one, another one recently about some kind of book club.
The book club. I think that was even older ladies. Candy Bergen. Crap. Who else is in it? Meryl was in it? I don't think Meryl.
I don't think so. Meryl Streep.
No, she wasn't in that one. She was in another one with Candice Bergen.
Yeah.
Candice is the only one I can think of. It might have been, oh wait, Diane Keaton.
Diane Keaton was in
Book
it.
club. Yeah.
Jane Fonda?
No, I don't
Jane
think so.
Fonda
Not
was
that
in it.
one?
Yes. Diane Keaton, Jane Fonda, Candice Bergen, and Mary Steenburgen.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's been a lot of mother-in-laws or stepmothers who were great villains in a lot of movies.
Oh,
Yeah. That's a stereotype.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who was it that played in Monster-in-Law? Or, yeah, Monster-in-Law.
Yeah, that was Jane Fonda and J-Lo.
Yeah.
I think that was Fonda's return to the screen. He had been away for quite a while.
Has Sigourney Weaver done anything recently?
Other than Avatar?
Avatar 2.
What, they brought her back? She died in the first one.
I don't know, she's in it.
Well, they cloned her somehow. Okay.
I loved her in Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of
Dave
my
was a good one.
students is in Avatar too.
Is that right?
I did do something recently. I just can't think of it.
She's also in Avatar 3, 4, and 5.
Oh my God. Well, that's what happens when you clone. You just keep
Are they cloning her, or are they just cloning the movie?
Yeah, that too. You gotta watch out for that replicant fade though.
That's the thing. If they want you to be in all of these sequels, and hopefully you live that long, because wasn't there somebody that they couldn't finish the movie because they had died?
Yeah,
There've been a couple of
that's
those.
happened. Yeah. If
John
you've done,
Candy died right in the middle of that movie, but they finished it anyhow.
it depends on how much of your main scenes that you've accomplished. If you've gotten all your close-ups and whatnot done, they can use body doubles for
Yeah.
long shots. It's happened. I think what? Oh dear. I'm gonna have to call her back.
We're running out of things to say.
But when am I going to see some good quality, some worthy scripts come out of this group?
Do you have specific genres or themes that you're looking for?
Short, character-driven, non-porn. But,
Okay.
other
That
than
counts me out.
Yeah. Yeah, porn's actually a pretty good market, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
I know some guys that make quite a tidy living at that, but it's not my thing.
Mm.
And I'm looking for strong stories. If I were to point you in the direction of things that I look for, it would be like you've seen The Phone Call, you've seen The Neighbor's Window, you've seen The Stutterer, things of that magnitude, things of that nature. 18, 20-minute long, Emmy-worthy, Oscar-worthy live action shorts.
So the Oscars are going to be this coming Sunday.
Yeah, well, I missed them this year, but there's next year.
Yeah.
On the 25th.
He
This
didn't mean
coming-
watching it. He meant having a movie in it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
Be
see.
nominated.
Yeah, I haven't been up there for years. Last time I got to walk between the velvet ropes was in 1969,
Woo.
Or what film?
the lunch date.
So, of this group, what do you consider short? And what do
I
you
consider shorts to be a script of about 20 pages. The Academy will let you go to as much as 40. But I feel if you can't really tell a complete story in under 20, I don't want to talk to you. And a lot of times, you know, I can pound out a complete story in 10, 12 pages. I mean,
But that's with the dialogue and the setting and everything.
that's everything. You have to learn to write tight.
Oh,
You know,
well, that lets me out.
every inch of that page is very valuable
Mhm.
story real estate.
Yeah.
You have to write tight. A lot of times there are no complete sentences in there. There are no adverbs in there. There are a few adjectives in there. Really wind it up so that it squeaks. And you can put a real strong story together in 10, 12 pages.
So, do you think that you can take a novel that's 90,000 words and put it into 20 pages?
Probably. I mean, depends on the theme itself and what the story is. But, you know, the story is what you're after. The theme is what you're after. The arc is what you're after. And I don't care if it's a 400-page novel or, you know, a novelette. But, you know, they can be made into short films, character-driven short films.
So how a script of 20 pages? How long of a movie is that? That's not a feature-length film.
Absolutely not. Basically, you know, the old concept of a minute on the screen is a minute on the stage or a minute on the script is a very general rule of thumb. It's a ballpark.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of action you have in it. If you have a lot of car chases and a lot of, you know, explosions and that kind of stuff, then it gets to be a lot more. But generally, you're talking about a minute per page, more or less.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think I would fit into that at all because mine usually span 20, 30 years, lifetime.
It's like a short story. You're taking either one scene.
Whoop, you froze, Pat.
Oops. Well, I think we'll,
Scene or one little.
Sorry, Pat, we missed what you said because you froze.
Oh, yeah.
we froze again.
Yeah.
You're gone again, Pat.
Okay, I
My
think
internet is unstable, so.
okay, I think we'll wind things down. So tell us what you're going to be working on for the next couple of weeks, Ardell.
I'm going to be plotting my next novel so that I'm ready for NaNoWriMo in November. And trying to decide whether I'm going to do my first attempt at writing a screenplay with a book that I've had set aside for about 30 years to do a screenplay on, or whether I'm going to convert this novel into a screenplay right off the bat. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But that's what I'm working on. Is the plotting right now.
Great. Pat, are you still frozen? Oops. She's
She's
gone.
gone.
Okay, Julian.
Yeah, mostly just revising, working on some things like the formatting with poppycock and all, trying to get it tuned up. I was just interested that Doug said he'd like to see some shorts from us. I was a little disappointed, Doug. You gave me permission to send you a short. Then you deleted it unopened, saying it was unsolicited. So
Correct. Yeah, correct.
yeah,
I mean,
but
that's,
you gave me permission. You gave me permission, so I didn't think that was truthful. So I'm not going to send anything.
no, I'm not particularly looking for a short that I can take to production. I have plenty of those. I'm willing to help people work on their shorts. I'm glad to do that. But I'm not willing to open something up and have somebody say, well, this is one you might want to take to production. No, ain't gonna be. Ain't gonna
No,
happen.
I'm just saying I asked your permission beforehand and you gave me permission. So
Yes, I probably did, but I'm assuming that it was for review or some notes or that kind of thing. The way I read it was you were looking to take it to production. That's not me.
Okay. Well, I did get it reviewed, and pretty decent positive review from Coverfly for that. So still have to see what's up with what I can do with shorts, but working on getting Poppycock really honed. The Blacklist review, once again, 6 said it was unique and hilarious, incredibly inventive, incredibly creative. So I think if I can maybe get that second act locked down and get it a little bit more, I don't know, something to keep people from getting a little bit too bogged down in the heavy dialogue, then I think people will respond to it a lot better. Maybe I'll be able to get those 8s and 9s and stuff, and maybe get some contest placements, because people just keep saying how funny it is. And but then they have some critiques, so I'm gonna get it to where they have little to complain about.
So
Have you
Pat,
ever thought of producing your own?
Oh, me?
Yeah, that's you.
I'm a humble man of slender means, so I'm just a fellow working full-time professional in a completely different field here in the middle of the Midwest. So I'm happy to collaborate with somebody, but as far as getting things done, that thing is too ambitious for me. That's certainly too ambitious. That's like a $20-30 million budget at least. So we're thinking about it though, but maybe my short, at some point I could do it in the park with a couple actors, perhaps. It's something to think about down the road. But Nick, what do you mean link for Coverfly for script review? By the way,
You were just talking about how in Coverfly you submitted it for review. I mean critique review. For critique. So is there a section? Do you know?
Yeah, it's get under when you go to. So if I go to Coverfly,
Okay.
and you go to my login and get to your profile, up in the under extras, it will give you an option to get feedback.
Okay, great. I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So go for that there.
So Coverfly and then option
Under extras.
extra.
On the upper right, the drop down menu says under extras, Coverfly X, get feedback. You click on that. Now you have to give reviews. It's a trade, so you have to review other people's scripts and earn credits, and then you may spend those credits on being reviewed. So you can't just jump in there and get a review. You got to do something first. So, and it's great to
start off as a reviewer. Is that it?
You got to put in. You got to put in first, and it's like any Calvin or Zoetrope sites where you review to get reviews.
okay,
So,
Pat, what are you going to be doing the next couple of weeks? You're
Trying to figure out my computer. No, I've got that thriller to finish into first draft where I'm happy with the layout of the action. Right now, there's a couple of iffy places. I've got to review all my notes from the Screencraft Summit. They made a spreadsheet of a lot of the attendees. I'd say quite a few of them were newbies. So that could be iffy, but there might be a few contacts there. So I have to go through that and see if I can find anybody, and just trying to keep moving forward.
Great. John Cook.
I just keep plugging away at this, animating one of my longer stories. But it's funny that Doug talked about shorts. In just the last little while, I've gone back to a bunch of short stories that I already have and trying to get them into a screenplay format. And again, just trying to condense it, get it, usually it's one joke about, all building to one punchline. So just trying to tighten up those. So there's one that I kind of have to finish off, and I know the next one that I want to work at, and just, go from a short story to a short screenplay.
Good. And Doug, you said you're going into production?
Yes, I am. And, that's what I was going to say for Julian and Nikki and the rest of you there. I don't want your scripts. I want to see your work. You have to actually get out there and produce something if you want to get into this industry. You have to have a calling card. So I'm interested in seeing your work. I'm not interested in producing your script.
Okay. Don Lewis, and you?
Yes, I guess we need to first thank you, Christine, for continuing to do this every 2 weeks. So thank you. I will continue to live in my theater world. As I said, here for a little while more. Rewrites on my play, A Catchy Song and a Shiny Light, will be happening. And I have another play I'm about finished with the first draft. So I'm almost done with that. And trust me, I will pivot back sometime the next couple of months to my TV scripts and screenplays and stuff that I have. We'll dust those off and other ideas germinating in my crazy head. So, and there may even be some porn for Doug to look at. So you never know. All right.
But what about your theater work? Can any of those be turned into scripts?
It's very possible. Like I said last time, I think I pitched this real quick. My latest play is it's kind of a road trip kind of a play. It's two guys are driving cross country to go to a funeral, and they pick up a hitchhiker who is not what she appears to be. Speaking of strong female characters. So that could certainly be, it's a one location. They're in a car the whole time. And some of it's funny and some of it's not so funny, and things like gender and race are brought up. And so, there's a lot going on in that world with these characters. So that's certainly something that could easily, I think, visually, I could see be translated over to film quite easily.
Good. And you, Nick, what are you going to concentrate on?
Yeah, so I'm gonna, continue working on the romantic comedy Luna Weds Muna, working on the rewrite, and go over the resources that you sent, the female characters and conflicts. Continue reading more scripts. I feel like those that always helps. And yeah, I tend to do better one script at a time. When there's two scripts, I'm kind of, because of time permitting. And then, Lori talked about the critique group that she has with Fatima, that once a month. So I'm going to reach out to her, maybe, just send whatever I have, since me and Fatima are kind of on the same page. We're kind of on the, we're still starting off and working on it. So, I think that'll be good if, to get collaborate with them on that. And I'm going to look over Coverfly, the critique, the review, see if, if maybe I could review one script and critique one. I think that'll give me a little bit more background. Yeah. So, and thanks, Christine, for holding this. So I believe the next one is on April. Sorry, what date was that? Was
Monday,
that
May the 3rd.
May 3rd. Okay, great. See you guys then.
And our topic will be writing emotions. So I will be working on my 2 horror scripts and my 2 Hallmark Christmas scripts. And my Bible for one of them. So keep well and keep warm as spring continues rolling out. We're supposed to have about 2 inches of snow on Wednesday here in Ontario, but hopefully that's not going to stay and we can get back to our outdoor gardening. So have a great 2 weeks and we'll see you on Monday, May the 3rd.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Christine.
Thank
See you
you.
then.
Bye.
Maybe,
everybody.
maybe not.
Yeah, have a good night.